Have you ever stopped to think about what it actually takes to get a truly massive, high-stakes tech project off the ground in a big company? I mean, the kind of thing that needs more than just coding skills. We're talking serious planning, solid justification, and, well, a lot of foresight. How do you even start mapping that out? Well, today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of project. It's called the ICT Governance Framework application. And this isn't your average software update. No, this is a full-on digital transformation. The goal, to bring AI-powered governance capabilities across the enterprise. Big stuff.
It really is. And our mission today is to unpack the detailed planning that goes into something like this. We're talking everything. The strategic justifications, the nitty-gritty architectural blueprints, even thinking about the people involved. It's kind of a rare peek behind the curtain, how these complex, high-value projects get envisioned and planned out step by step. We'll walk you through what we found in the internal summaries, the business cases, measurement plans, all of it.
Okay, let's get into it then. Before we talk about the solution, let's really understand the why. What problems was this organization actually facing that made them say, okay, we need to invest big here?
Well, the fundamental issue, the core problem, was what they called a significant governance maturity gap. Their score was only 45%. And when you look at the industry average, that's sitting around 68%. So quite a difference.
45% versus 68? Okay.
Yeah. And this wasn't just some abstract number. It had real consequences, like an estimated $650,000 in annual value leakage.
Wow, $650,000 just leaking away.
Exactly. So it's not just about compliance rules. It's hitting the bottom line.
Right. But what did that feel like for the actual people working there day to day, beyond the dollar figures? What were those frustrations?
Oh, it showed up in some really painful ways. Serious operational headaches. Get this.
Yeah.
75% of their governance tasks were manual.
75%. Manual.
Yep. Chewing up something like 2,400 hours every single month.
That's staggering.
And they were trying to manage this across 12 different disconnected systems. So information silos everywhere, as you'd expect.
Nightmare.
Absolutely. Decisions were slow. The average approval cycle for governance stuff, 14 days.
2 weeks just for an approval.
And maybe even worse, about 30% of all the effort put into governance was spent on activities that added zero value. Just, wasted time.
30% wasted effort. Ouch.
Yeah. And finding information. A huge pain point. People spent, on average, 8 hours a week just searching for governance info. 65% of stakeholders actually called this out as a major frustration, and it caused real delays. 15 to 30% of decisions were held up because of it.
You can just feel the frustration building.
Totally. The overall perception was that governance was just bureaucratic, slow, overly complex. Getting approval for a major tech project, that could take 60 to 90 days.
Okay, that paints a very, very clear picture. A lot of friction, a lot of wasted time. So faced with all that, what were the big goals? What did everyone hope this new framework would achieve?
Well, the plan laid out some pretty clear shared objectives that really hit home for everyone involved. Top of the list was transparency and visibility. Everyone wanted real-time, easy access to what was happening with governance decisions and outcomes. Makes sense?
Absolutely. No more black boxes.
Exactly. Then, efficiency and process optimization. Streamlining things, cutting down approval times, automating workflows, basically making it less painful.
Getting rid of that wasted effort you mentioned?
Precisely. And tied to the money leakage, value realization, and ROI. People wanted to see clear business value from tech investments linked directly to business goals.
Show me the money, essentially.
Pretty much. Then, of course, risk management and compliance. Doing it right without making it a massive burden. Identifying risks proactively, automating monitoring where possible.
Table stakes, really, but important.
Definitely. And this one's critical. Innovation enablement. Governance shouldn't block innovation. It should speed it up. Things like fast-track approvals, balanced risk-taking.
That's a big shift in mindset for governance.
It is. And finally, collaboration and communication. Better tools, clearer channels, breaking down those silos we talked about.
Okay, so those are the goals. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. How did they actually propose to fix all this? What is this ICT Governance Framework application?
Right, the what. At its heart, it's designed as a comprehensive platform, and crucially, it's AI-powered. And the value proposition they put forward is pretty compelling. They anticipate this thing delivering $2.3 million in annual business value.
$2.3 million. Annually. Wow, okay. Yeah. That's a big number. What about the hard financial returns, the ROI?
Yeah, they crunch those numbers hard. The detailed analysis projects an amazing 94% ROI in year one.
94% in the first year.
I know, right? Almost pays for itself immediately. Over 5 years, the projection is a net present value, or NPV, of $7.55 million.
7.5 million.
Yep, and an internal rate of return, the IRR, of 173.2%. Huge! But maybe the most impressive number, especially for a project this size.
Let me guess. The payback period.
You got it. The discounted payback period is just 7 months.
7 months. For an enterprise-wide digital transformation, that is incredibly fast. How does that even happen? What specific things add up to that $2.3 million a year?
It really highlights how much value was being lost before, doesn't it? The value breaks down into 3 main buckets. First, cost reduction. That's the biggest piece. 52% of the value, about $1.2 million a year.
Okay, over half is cost savings. Where does that come from mainly?
A huge chunk is from process automation. Remember those 2,400 manual hours a month? Automating away 1,800 of those is estimated to save $450,000 annually right there.
Makes sense. What's the next bucket?
Revenue enhancement. This is 39% of the value, or $900,000 a year.
So not just saving money, but making more, too. How?
Things like faster decision-making, that alone is projected to bring in $350,000. And enabling innovation, getting projects delivered faster, getting to market quicker, that adds another $280,000.
Right, speeding things up has real revenue impact. And the last piece.
The last 9%, about $200,000, comes from strategic value. This is a bit less tangible, but still important. Things like gaining a competitive advantage, they put $120,000 on that, and enhancing their brand value, maybe $50,000, by being seen as an industry leader with strong governance.
Okay, so cost savings, revenue growth, and strategic positioning. It's a compelling mix. So how did they actually plan to build this thing to deliver all that value? What did the architecture look like?
The architecture is really modern, built on cloud data principles, designed for scale, designed for intelligence, and interestingly, they tied value back to almost every architectural choice.
Really? Like how?
Okay, so cloud-native design, they went with Microsoft Azure PaaS Platform as a Service. That means automatic scaling, high availability, easier operations. Projected savings, $125,000 a year, just from that choice.
Wow, okay.
Then, microservices architecture, breaking the whole thing down into smaller, independent services. Easier to develop, easier to maintain. Saves about $95,000 annually.
Makes sense. Keep going.
An API-first approach. Designing the interfaces first ensures things integrate well, makes it extensible. That delivers about $85,000 a year in just integration efficiency.
Smart. What about security? Always a big one.
Huge. They adopted a zero-trust security model. Never trust, always verify. Security at every layer. That's estimated to save $200,000 annually, partly through better compliance, partly avoiding breaches.
$200,000 just on security design. Impressive.
Yeah. And then there's the data-driven intelligence. Building AI and analytics in from the start. That's projected to provide $350,000 annually through AI-powered optimization. Better insights, better decisions.
Okay, the AI piece is central.
Absolutely. And finally, an event-driven architecture. Using things like Azure Service Bus for asynchronous communication. Makes it more scalable, more responsive. Adds about $65,000 annually.
It really does sound like every piece was justified financially. So can you give us a quick tour of the main components? What are the actual building blocks?
Sure. You've got a presentation layer, the user interface. They use React and TypeScript for the web apps. Plus, progressive web app features. So it works better on mobile, even offline, push notifications, that kind of thing.
Okay. Modern front end.
Yep. Then an API gateway, Azure API management. That's the front door for all the system services. Handles security, traffic, analytics.
The gatekeeper.
Exactly. Behind that is the business services layer. This is where the core logic lives. There's a governance engine built in .NET 8.0, handling workflows, policies, risk assessments. There's an analytics service using Python and Apache Spark for the machine learning and predictive stuff, and dedicated services for compliance and risk management.
So the brains of the operation.
Pretty much. And supporting all that is the data layer. They used a mix of databases. Azure SQL for regular transactional data, Azure Synapse Analytics for big data warehousing and analytics, and Azure Cosmos DB for more flexible, unstructured data.
A multi-tool approach to data storage makes sense given the complexity. So that sounds like a massive build. How long did they estimate this would all take, and what was the total price tag?
Yeah, it's definitely a significant project. The whole implementation was planned over 65 weeks, so about 15 months.
15 months, okay.
And the total initial investment budgeted was $1.275 million.
Just over $1.25 million.
Right, and they broke it down into 5 phases. Phase 1, Foundation and planning, 15 weeks. Phase 2, core platform development, 20 weeks. Phase 3, advanced features and integration, 15 weeks. Phase 4, testing and quality assurance, 10 weeks. And finally, Phase 5, deployment and go live, just 5 weeks.
A pretty logical progression. What about the people needed?
Substantial resources. They estimated needing 23 FTEs full-time equivalents. That includes the core project team, but also external consultants, like experts in COVID or fair risk assessment. And importantly, a significant chunk of time investment from stakeholders across the business. You need their input.
Absolutely. Building something like this isn't just about tech, is it? It's so much about the people, the organization, managing all the change. How did they factor that in?
That's a great point. They actually did an organizational context assessment beforehand,
Right.
and the results were pretty positive. They found a highly favorable environment. The overall score was 8.7 out of 10.
8.7, that's really high. What does that mean practically?
It means things like strong strategic alignment.
Mm.
People understood why this was important. High change readiness, staff were generally open to it, and really solid executive support, which, as you know, is critical.
Definitely. Having the top brass behind you makes a huge difference. But even with that high readiness score, change is still hard. What was the actual plan for managing it day to day?
They had a formal change management plan, very structured. Changes were categorized by risk. Standard, minor, significant, major, even emergency. Each had different approval steps.
So not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Nope. And they had a clear prioritization system, too. Critical, high, medium, low. Makes sense. Overseeing all this was a change control board, the CCB.
Wow.
It had people from all the key areas, technical, security, business, operations, QA. So decisions were made collectively.
A structured way to handle the bumps in the road. And how did they plan to keep everyone in the loop during this, 15-month journey?
Communication was key. They developed a really detailed communication management plan. The crucial part was tailoring it. Executives got biweekly dashboards, teams had daily stand-ups, specific campaigns were planned for go live. They thought about the audience, the message, the channel.
Right message, right person, right time.
Exactly. Using tools people already used. Teams, SharePoint, the company intranet, to make sure information was transparent and accessible.
Okay, that covers the internal side. What about external pressures? Regulations, compliance, those can be massive hurdles for big tech projects.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They had to navigate a really complex regulatory world. The team identified 47 different regulatory frameworks that could apply.
47, wow.
Yeah, and they categorized them by impact. High-impact ones included things like GDPR, Sarbanes-Oxley, SOX, ISO 277 thing for security, the NIST cybersecurity framework.
Big hitters.
Definitely. Medium impact included things like COVID, ISO 31000 for risk management, FAIR for quantifying risk. Their overall compliance readiness was assessed at 73%. So a decent starting point, but clearly work needed. The plan included specific actions like automated compliance tasks where possible.
73% readiness. Interesting. It really sounds like they planned everything meticulously, even planning how they'd plan. Did they define any core values to guide all this complex work?
They did. And they weren't just, posters on the wall. They defined 8 core values intended as practical guides for decision-making.
Okay, like what?
Well, first was value-driven excellence. Every decision had to tie back to measurable business value. Makes sense given the ROI focus.
Ties back to the $2.3 million.
Exactly. Then, risk-informed decision-making. Not avoiding risk, but understanding it quantitatively, using methods like FAIR, making smart bets. Interestingly, they included sustainable technology practices, thinking about environmental impact, setting carbon reduction targets for the tech itself.
That's forward thinking.
It is. Also, innovation through governance, which we touched on, designing processes to actually speed up innovation, maybe using things like technology sandboxes.
Turning governance from a brake into an accelerator.
That was the goal.
Huh.
Stakeholder-centric engagement was another, making sure governance actually served the people using it, being transparent, getting feedback. And finally, continuous excellence and learning, building in regular reviews, benchmarking, aiming to constantly improve.
Those values really paint a picture of a mature strategic approach. So with all this planning, investment, effort, how do they actually know if it worked? How do they measure success?
The measurement plan. Crucial piece. They defined 45 key performance indicators or KPIs.
45 KPIs. That's a lot to track.
It is, but they covered 8 different domains. And reporting frequencies varied, some real-time, some daily, weekly, monthly, even annually. The goals were clear. Monitor performance continuously. use data to make decisions, and drive ongoing improvement. They even set a target to make at least 12 improvements per year based on what the KPIs were showing.
12 improvements a year driven by data. Nice.
Uh-huh.
What are some example KPIs?
Key operational ones included aiming for a 35% improvement in process efficiency, directly tackling that wasted effort, an 80% automation rate for governance tasks, and 85% user adoption of the new platform.
Those seem like really solid, measurable targets tied back to the original problems. Now, speaking of users, how did they make sure this complex system was actually usable and useful for the different people interacting with it?
They put a lot of thought into user personas and motivations, really tried to understand who would be using it and why.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Take a CTO. Their motivation, strategic success, impact, leading innovation. So the application gives them an executive dashboard for high-level review, tracking investments, seeing the big picture.
Tailored to their needs.
Exactly. Or an IT operations manager. They're driven by operational excellence, keeping things running smoothly, solving problems for them. An operations dashboard with real-time monitoring, incident tracking.
Makes sense. What about someone in compliance?
A compliance officer. Their motivation is often professional integrity, ensuring regulations are met. So they get a compliance dashboard focused on regulatory monitoring, audit trails, evidence gathering.
And maybe one more, like an engineer?
Yep, a DevOps engineer.
Yeah.
They value automation, speed, reliable delivery. So they'd monitor CI/CD pipelines through the platform, check infrastructure health, track deployment success. The point is, the design wasn't one size fits all. Features like customizable dashboards, automated workflows, tailored reports, they were all designed thinking about who would use them and what drives them.
That connection between features, personas, and motivations seems really key for adoption.
It's absolutely crucial. You can build the best tech in the world, but if it doesn't align with how people work and what they care about, it won't stick.
So, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it feels like the big takeaway isn't just about the tech itself, right? Building this AI-powered governance framework. It's almost a masterclass in strategic planning, detailed execution, and maybe most importantly, understanding the human side of a big organization.
I think that's exactly right. We've seen how they justified a multi-million-dollar project by quantifying real pain points, how they promised really exceptional financial returns, and how they used modern architecture to deliver it. But fundamentally, it was about shifting governance from just a cost center or a compliance checkbox into a real strategic advantage, something that helps the business move faster and smarter.
It really does make you pause and think about the layers of thought, the intentionality that might be behind the big systems we all interact with every day. And maybe for you, listening in, whether you're tackling a small team project or a huge initiative, this sparks a question. How deeply do you really understand the why behind your own work, the how of your approach? And how could thinking this structurally valuing both the hard numbers and the human motivations maybe transform how you build for the future?